Ciao ragazzi, adesso studiamo la forma passiva. We're going to study the passive voice. So the passive voice means switching the subject and the object. So while your direct sentence here in English would be Nick reads books every day, the passive will be books are read by Nick every day. So in Italian we have the same thing. So il papà costruisce la casa. So la casa è costruita dal papà. So dad builds the house. Subject, verb, object. Or the house is built by dad. So although he's the one who does the action, he's not the subject anymore. So we call this the agent. So subject, verb, and agent. This is the passive form. You have it in English, for example. You can say Charles Dickens wrote a novel, or this is a novel written by Charles Dickens, for example. So you have this too. So he opens the door, and the door is opened by him. This only works if you have a direct object. Only a direct object can become a subject. In Italian, we have several ways of doing this. The most common and the one that you can use for everything is this. Here, this formula here, you will use essere, which gets conjugated at the same tense of the active form. So if you have il topo mangia il formaggio, the mouse eats the cheese, you have present tense. So now mangia becomes è, and then the verb with the meaning is a past participle. And then you switch the subject and the object. So the object now becomes the subject, il formaggio, è mangiato. And then you need da plus your agent. And the article, you might need the article. Dal topo. Okay? Sometimes you don't need an agent. You can just say the cheese is eaten. You don't always have to state the agent, although it is very common. So for simple tenses, you will now get two verbs, as you just saw. So il topo mangia il formaggio è mangiato dal topo. For compound tenses, you will now get three verbs. For example, if your main sentence had been il topo ha mangiato il formaggio, you will now have il formaggio è stato mangiato dal topo. Okay, so now you have 1, 2, 3. 3 verbs. Okay, there's one more thing that you need to keep in mind. If you have, because you have now essere is now your helping verb, you have a past participle. If your helping verb is essere, you do have to make an agreement. So, with the subject. So you have it right here. La torta è mangiata dal topo. I switched torta rather than formaggio because formaggio is masculine. I wasn't going to be able to show you. But la torta is feminine, è mangiata dal topo. So don't forget that agreement. This use of the passive form can be used with all tenses. Okay, so this is your go-to passive form. These are a couple of examples. La torta sarà fatta da loro. This is to show you that you can do it with future, you can do it with a conditional. Il tavolo sarebbe stato preparato da noi. Or with the subjunctive, lui spera che la lezione sia spiegata dalla professoressa. And a reminder of the agreements. The second way to make a passive form is to use venire, which will be conjugated at the same tense as your active form, plus past participle, and then usual, you will need to agree. So, for example, la pizza viene mangiata dal topo. Va bene? This is a quick reminder how you conjugate venire. Vengo, vieni, viene, veniamo, venite, vengono. Because this is only for simple tenses, you'll end up always with top 2 verb unit. Okay? So this is a rather simple use of the passive. So when you have a simple tense, you have two choices, A or B. Here we have another passive form. This one, however, has a specific meaning. So not only are you making it passive, but you are given the sense that there's a duty, there's a necessity. Okay? For example, gli studenti ascoltano la lezione. The students listen to the lesson. But la lezione va ascoltata dagli studenti. The lesson has to be heard, listened by the students. So here you really have a sense of duty necessity. Here too, you have an agreement, and please make sure that you know that you can use this only with simple sentences. And andare, your helping verb, is conjugated the same tense as your active form. So again, here too, the agent is not necessarily stated, and this applies here too. Okay, it's not necessarily, but mostly stated. Okay, so your last one, it's not really a passive form, but we usually find it in the unit with the passive because it's another way of giving the sense that the sense of passivity, I guess, I don't know if that exists in English, and it's called il si passivante, and it's the impersonal si, which you have learnt. This is for all tenses. You don't have an agent. The reason for that is that you actually don't have subject, and also this is not a really truly passive form. And this has a more general meaning where you have people, everyone. So si somewhat means everyone. Then you conjugate the verb based on what follows, since you don't have a subject. So a scuola si ascolta la lezione, or a scuola si ascoltano I professori. So the verb here is conjugated according to what follows. We have studied the impersonal si, so just to let you know, this is another way in which you can achieve a somewhat passive form. And this is the final chart of your 4 options. I hope this helped.